Welcome back into another episode of the This Week in Cougar Baseball podcast as we're getting ready for the start of the 2026 season for Cougar Baseball. I'm Trevor Williams, glad to be with you, along with the head coach of the Cougars, Nathan Choate, and today we're going to have a special episode where we talk to some assistant coaches on this Washington State staff about the group that's coming in this year, what's been going on in the offseason, and what Cougar fans can expect coming up. So we'll start, Coach, with you. I know exciting to talk to these assistants you work with so closely and talk Cougar baseball as we get even closer to the start of the season.
Yeah, great to see you. About less than a month away, so excited to get going and talk some Cougar baseball.
For you, Tommy Richards is the first assistant coach that we're going to talk to today. Tell Coug fans about Tommy. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with him from his playing days at Washington State, but what he's brought to this team on staff.
Yeah, so Tommy's going to year 2. He's an alum, has a unbridled passion for the Cougs. I know this place means a lot to him, and this year he's changed it into a different role. He's our recruiting coordinator, and he's our infield coach, and I think we're really going to see some changes on the positioning, and I'm really pleased with the development of our infielders, and he's done a great job in both those two roles.
What are some of the best ways you've seen him impact things so far, and especially as we talk this offseason coming into this year?
Well, probably the two biggest things is, number one, he's a worker. You can't question his work ethic. He's a tireless worker, and then he's got a very quiet confidence about him, and I think that rubs off on our players. And defensively, we want a group that wants to make plays, that's not afraid to make errors, that's freed up, and so he's not arrogant by any stretch, but there is just a quiet confidence to him. And I think when you get someone that's pretty hardworking and they have that quiet confidence and they're around players daily, it rubs off on them. And so he's got a lot of strengths, but those are two I think that really have come to the forefront this fall with our infielders.
What stood out to you about him most when you decided to bring him to the staff? You mentioned year 2, so prior to last year.
Yeah, he had success at Bushnell, building a program, and was really interested in the job and was not afraid of hard work. When I took over this job, it was already a challenging job. And then with the conference stuff and scheduling and all the challenges we've had over the last 2 years, to have a guy that really wanted to step in the fire at the toughest of times and really kind of take it head on with myself and our other coaches, he was the right person for the job for a variety of reasons, but he wasn't scared at the challenge, and it is a challenge, right? When you're trying to build back up a program and get it flipped, and I think that's just the biggest thing, his passion for wanting to be at Washington State.
Tommy, it's a great time to bring you into the conversation. Hearing Coach talk about those aspects of what you're giving to the program. Just in your eyes, how has it been being back in total? And then we'll get into this year's team.
Yeah, no, just a dream for me, man, to be in Pullman, to work with this staff, and just really thankful for the opportunity and hungry to keep evolving.
What stands out about this group? You guys have some core returners, especially when we talk about this infield, some really great pieces back. Maybe let's start there. What do those faces coming back look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think you said it, man. Like, the thing that stands out would be the experience. I think the toughness, who they are, the heart that they have. I think my favorite thing about the group has just been they've been coachable, right? Every day we go out there and they've enjoyed the work. They've gotten after it. So really excited about that. Obviously, bringing some guys back. There's experience there. They've been in the fire, as Coach Choate said, and then we've got some new guys in there that have come a long way and evolved over the course of the fall and the early spring.
Can you tell Coug fans about some of the returning names, some of these players that you guys have brought back here for this next season?
Yeah, I think one guy to highlight. We'll talk about them all, but Shawnsby had a really good fall. I think that you've seen his passion for the game, his excitability, his energy has ticked up, and he's a guy that is looked to as a leader. So at first base, you got to have a guy that's smart and can pick the infield up. He's done that. Obviously, Gavin Roy has been a guy that you guys are familiar with. He's a little bit banged up in the fall, so I didn't get him, all the way through. But Northrop, Phil, Obenauer, Scholl, all guys that know what the work looks like and still competitive every day, figuring out what roles are going to be. But they've done a good job, and it's been great to work with them. And then, new guys in there. Brock Cross has evolved a lot at first base, thinking about, where he was at the beginning of the fall to where he is now. He's improved. And then, Dane Chavez from Kennewick, just really impressive player, really confident, communicates really well, really good skill set. And so just guys that we're excited to work with.
Coming out of last year into this year, what were you focused on from this position group? How did you attack the off season? Yeah. What are you guys really, setting your eyes on?
Yeah. And spent a lot of time contemplating things and thinking about it. And I think it really is a simple concept, not easy, but simple, right? But want our group really to think about making plays, not avoiding mistakes. And so just the heart and the mentality of thinking about, what can go right, not thinking about what can go wrong. And I think that when you have the experience that our group had last year, where there was challenges and things necessarily didn't go our way the whole time, I think that's probably the lesson that we took away from it the most is you got to have the right mentality and you got to have the eye of the tiger and ready to work. And I think the biggest thing would just be trying to make plays, not trying to avoid mistakes.
You mentioned Ryan Shawnsby right off the top as a guy that had a really good offseason. What specifically did you see him, work on in his game that was able to take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think communication was big for him, right? Like he's a smart guy. He knows the ins and outs of the defense. He's done a better job of maybe holding the line with other guys and teaching them, what we expect and the systems that we have. And I think really just being present and thinking about this pitch, not getting outside of the present moment and focusing on the process is something that he's done a good job of. And we're excited to just watch him continue to grow. He can get better, man, for sure. But he's done a good job up to this point.
You talked about Gavin Roy, a name people are familiar with, one of the captains on this team.
Yeah.
What does he bring to the middle of that infield for you?
Yeah, he brings a lot of experience, right? Like he's a guy that has played the game the right way. He's a baseball player. When we talk recruiting, we like guys that are baseball players, right? Guys that would rather, or guys that are more concerned with being a champion rather than being a star, right? Is something that we talk about on the recruiting trail. So I think that his dependability, he's been in there, and I think just your job as a shortstop. We talk about it as a group, as an infield group, but especially as a shortstop. You got to elevate the guys around you. It's not necessarily about you. It's about making sure the guys around you are ready to play and elevate the group.
Kyler Northrup and Ollie Obenauer, couple returning sophomores now. So going into their second year, you hear all the time people talk about how players can make a huge leap from their freshman to their sophomore year. What's going to be the key for each of those guys to, take that leap that people sometimes expect?
Yeah, I think the key, there's no magic formula, right? I think the thing that they do a good job of is just steadily evolving every day, getting a little bit better. I think that discipline is a big part of it, right? Like Kyler Northrup is a guy with so many great intangibles and a guy that you just think he's dependable. Just kind of watching him go through the day to day. And then Ollie, has a really good skill set. I think that, putting him at third base and seeing what that looks like, it's a really good arm and it's a player that's really capable of making all the plays. We saw him make all the plays in the fall, and I think it's just a matter of being more and more consistent with both of those guys. But I think their development has been real, and they've done the work, and so we'll continue to steadily evolve and push them forward.
You mentioned a newcomer in Brock Cross, first baseman, catcher type profile, has a good body on him for a young player. Just what stood out to you? You mentioned being pretty impressed by what you've seen so far.
I think the thing that I'm the most impressed with is just the growth, right? Like if you would have seen him, defensively maybe in the fall, I think things were speeding up for him. I think that maybe he was a little overwhelmed by the things that we were asking him to do. But his ability to simplify and to understand, what the defense looks like and how we prioritize that piece. So it's not really like a physical thing or any sort of a makeup, but just the thing that's been the most impressive is like how much better he's gotten in that time period, right? And so you get excited about a guy like that and a thing like that, just thinking about if he can keep working hard and stacking those days up, he's got a chance to be a really good player.
Anyone else who you've been really, happy with their development in the offseason or things that they've done in this group as a whole?
Yeah, just spend a little time talking about Dane. Like I think Dane kind of has the it factor. I think that he communicates at a high level. He's always present. I think the thing that was just impressive to us about Dane, especially as a young player, there were times where we noticed in the fall where maybe something didn't go his way offensively, but he had the ability to get right back, out on the field and get to the present moment. And he's positioning guys, he's communicating and doing a good job of leading the troops and just kind of a steady player, never too high, never too low, but the ability to segment, to compartmentalize, get in the present moment and really just kind of start leading the troops. And so I think the thing that I've appreciated the most about Dane, just being the infield coach, is he communicates really well, which is he's beyond his years in that regard.
Coach Choate, what have you enjoyed in watching Tommy work with these position groups this year, getting them ready for this season, how he goes about it?
Yeah, the understanding of the defense. I think the best compliment I can give him, and I told him this, our first practice back in January, we did a machine game with some defensive stuff, and it felt like we picked up right where we left off at the end of the fall, which, it's a 7.5 week break. The fact that the infielders retained the information that they learned from a positioning standpoint and just conceptually, and they held that information and retained it, that means they learned it, which means it was well taught and well coached. And so I think that's a huge compliment to Tommy. And I told him, I looked at him in the dugout and I said, good job, man. You should feel good because they retained the information. And so I really think there's going to be a noticeable difference in how we play in the infield, just with the confidence and then the positioning as well. Understanding how we're trying to pitch and we position the defense to how we're trying to pitch, so that when we execute, we have that shortstop in the 6 hole. And just those little nuanced things that to the casual fan may not just stand out, but to coaches, they jump out, they scream out at you. And so I think we've just cleaned some of those things up. And so I think that's a credit to Tommy and the infielders in their work.
Tommy, for you've been a part of winning teams at Washington State. How do you talk to your guys about what you know from those teams and the way that people went about their work that they can apply, as they try to become one of those teams in Washington State history that has a really good record?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think we've talked about it so much as a staff recently, but it's all about the process, man. It's all about the process. It's all about segmenting and being in the present moment and really focusing on the process over the results, right? Like there's going to be times, man, where the results are a distraction and we need to have the toughness, the fortitude to be able to keep hammering the process. And so I think those are some of the things maybe that I learned, when I was in their position and really as a coaching staff, right? That's what we're trying to impart on them as we embark into this spring. And then I think the other thing too, man, is like, you got to be tough, man. You got to be tough to be a Coug, and these guys are. I think that's a part of the process, man, is the toughness level and the ability to, get past mistakes and get to the present moment.
Any final thoughts from you talking about this group and just getting ready for the year to come? I mean, first pitch is less than a month away now.
No additional thoughts from me. Just want to, earn the respect of the staff and the players, that I'm lucky enough to work with, and just keep plowing ahead.
Coach, thoughts from you as we talk about this group and continue to preview this team?
Excited to get going. That's. I think we're just going to echo that, and like Tommy said, the thing that we've circled as a staff is just the process, teaching our guys to understand that the process and winning each individual pitch make this pitch greater than any other. So A lot of times it's not the first mistake that kills you in an inning or in a game. It's not the second, it's the third or fourth that you can't get past. And so I really think that's the biggest key with this team is we're going to make mistakes, but can we get past it and can we get present to that pitch and make that pitch greater than any other in the game? And if you can do that and segment it, you give yourself a really good opportunity to play good baseball.
All right. Well, it's Tommy Richards with us talking Coug infield and getting ready for the year. Tommy, thanks for your time, and we're looking forward to the season.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Up next with us as we get ready for this upcoming Cougar baseball season, we've got another assistant coach for the Cougs, Eric Hutting, who is the Cougars hitting coach, also works with the catchers. And Coach Choate, as we talk about Coach Hutting, obviously a guy that came with you to Washington State from LMU. You've known him a long time. Just can you talk about his impact on this staff so far and what you're looking from him in the future here?
Yeah, Eric has grown so much in the 5 years that we've worked together. I have a ton of trust in him. On the field, I can turn my back and know that he's going to echo the message that we have talked about as a staff and hold players accountable. I think that's one of his two biggest strengths are probably his feel for the game. I think he has tremendous feel for the game. And then his willingness to hold people accountable, which can be challenging at times, right? To hold people accountable, and be tough on them and criticize them. But he does it because he cares, but he's got a ton of passion, a lot of knowledge, great feel. And so really fortunate to have him on staff again this year.
What are some of the things you've noticed about what he's been able to do with both the catchers and the hitters coming into this season?
Yeah, I think the relationship that he's built with both the catching group and the hitters has really grown. I think he does a really good job taking complex issues offensively and trying to deliver them in a simple message and a simple plan and what we're trying to do offensively. I think there's a lot of buy-in with our team of what we're trying to do to put pressure on the defense. We're trying to hunt the fastball. I think if you ask any of our players what we're trying to do offensively, they understand what our philosophy is and what we're going to be about and what our identity is. And so that doesn't happen overnight. You just don't flip it a light switch. That's just hammered in constantly with simple messaging but consistent messaging. And so I think he's done a great job with both those, with the catchers and also with the hitters.
Well, Eric, we appreciate you being here with us to talk about these groups. And let's start with the catching position for you guys. You're coming off a year in which you had an all-conference catcher in Will Cresswell. He gets drafted, goes pro. So there's some production to make up for in that role. You've got some returners and some new faces as well. Just what are you seeing from that catching group as you get going?
Yeah, we have a good group. We have a good group of catchers. It starts with Noah Thine. He's our returning catcher. And he's done a great job, right? He has some experience, and he's done a great job of kind of helping the new guys kind of come along and understand what we're about and what we're looking to do. Cam McLeod, Alex Shagir, and Joel Fernandez are the new catchers in our program. And they've done a really good job too of adapting and doing what we've asked them to do and holding themselves to a really high standard. And they've been, developing relationships with our pitching staff. And I think that's been the most important thing. Is just pouring themselves into our staff. Because at the end of the day, our program is built on pitching and defense, and they understand that the catching position is so important. What we do back there, is vital to the success of our team.
How do you break down all those roles for a catcher? Because there is so much going on. I mean, they've got the relationship with the pitcher, the responsibilities defensively, and then they're trying to be effective hitters as well. How do you approach that from a catching mindset and coaching this group?
I think number one, it just starts with them understanding that what they do defensively is more important than what they do offensively, right? We don't have to be, we like to call ourselves, we're really good catchers that can hit, right? We're not offensive catchers, but I think it just comes from there and being able to separate their offense from their defense and get present, right? No matter if they're struggling at the plate or what's going on, it's about separating the two. And I think they've done a really good job of that. And just getting present on each pitch and separating that. And as we get into the spring, right, when there starts to be some results, right, I think that gets a little bit tougher. But I think they're ready to do that.
You talked about Noah, the returner at this position for you guys. What has he done throughout the offseason to work on his game? And then how much of a challenge is it for him, integrating these new faces?
Yeah, so he went out and played summer ball close to home in Iowa this summer, and he had a really good summer, right? He worked on everything that that we asked him to work on, and he came back prepared and ready to go. And he's helped our guys kind of understand the philosophy and the expectations, not only physically, but with the system and just the importance of the defense, right? He's been a leader, not only for our catchers, but really everybody, right? With just his presence and his energy and his pouring himself into others and his unselfishness. I can't speak enough good things about Noah Thine.
And then you talked about Alex, Cam, Joel. Cam and Joel have experience coming in from other places. So just where are kind of each of them at in their journey?
Yeah, so I'll start with Cam McLeod. He came from Cloud County. We have a few different guys that are from that junior college, and he came in prepared. I think those guys do a really good job of preparing their players, and that's why we like that program. But he's got some physicality. He's got some maturity to him, and he's done a really good job this fall. Alexander Jaguar is a freshman from Canada that's really tooled up. He's got really good feel for the game. He's got IQ, and one thing that stands out about Jiggy is his aptitude. It's really impressive from a freshman to take in information. Have an ability to get criticized a little bit. When he's not meeting the standard or expectations that we have, but taking in the information, not taking it personal, and then just moving on and applying it and remembering the information. And then Joel Fernandez was a Gold Glove winner in the NWAC, and we're pumped that he's here. And he's made some strides, and he's continuing to get better in his development. And he's got some ability on both sides of the baseball, not only defensively, but he's got some strength, at the plate as well.
Coach Choate, when we look at the catchers, and obviously they integrate with the pitchers you work so closely with, what have you seen from this group under the leadership of Coach Hutting?
Their ability to pick up the system quickly. I don't think there's a more important position on the field in college baseball in particular than the catcher, especially with science going through them and all that different stuff. And so you have to be unselfish to be a good catcher. I've never seen a good catcher that's selfish and does not pour themselves into others. And so I think, Coach Hutting embodies that. It's important to him. It was important to him as a player. He does it as a coach. And so, when our guys are doing flat grounds, instead of doing some base running stuff, they're always catching our pitchers. If there's a guy that gets there late because of class and we have a bullpen late, it's never hard to find a guy to catch bullpen. They're always willing to hey, I'll catch bullpen. I can catch bullpen. I'll stick around. I'll come early, all that kind of stuff. And so when you have that mindset from all four of your catchers, it's probably coming from somewhere, and it's coming from our catching coach, right? And so understanding the importance of pouring yourself into other people, how important the catching position is. You're going to hear this theme a lot about getting to the next pitch, being present. We do not care when you make a mistake. Honestly, in a sick way, I kind of like it when a guy makes a mistake in a game, because I absolutely love to see how they respond and see, are they able to get a breath in? Can they find their focal point? Can they clear it? Can they get present to the next pitch? It seems like a very simple concept, but you have about 20 seconds to do that after you make a mistake at the catching position. Ball gets past you, ball bounces up, hits you in the throat. You got me in your ear asking questions and calling pitches, and then you're supposed to be looking at the pitcher, making sure he gets his breath in. Then you get an umpire talking to you at the same time, and you have to get past what just happened to get present. And so I think Coach Hutting's done a great job with that group, getting them to understand that we cannot be a good pitching staff and we cannot be a good team if we don't have good catchers. It just simply will not happen.
Pivoting over to the hitting side of things and the approach that you work with the guys on that. I mean, last year, this team made a lot of really great strides offensively, did some really good things to put pressure on other teams. Can you talk about your mindset, your approach, and what you want the guys to take to the plate with them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm really excited all right, about our group. I think we obviously have a lot of experience coming back, guys that have more Division I at bats, this year. And guys had a really good fall. I think we have a lot of guys that can really swing the bat. We're more physical this year. I think guys have done a really good job in the weight room and getting more physical and getting stronger. And guys want to hit, and I think we can really hit. But at the same time, our guys have a really, good understanding of what kind of offense we're going to be. And part of that is, going through some struggles, especially early last year, and understanding, that it's not about getting hits. It's about being a team offense, and finding ways to get on base and put pressure on the defense. So, the buy-in from the guys that were here last year that understand that, but also the new guys have done a really good job of fitting in and learning what we're about. So I'm super excited about this group.
Where have you seen some of the returners, take a jump in their approach at the plate and what they're able to do?
Yeah, I think understanding, separating each pitch, right? I think number one, like we talked about, being able to get present. I think they've done a better job of that, right? I think that comes with experience and being able to flush it and get your mind right for each pitch. But understanding also that there's, there's different ways that we can put pressure on the defense by making the opponent make decisions, right? Especially with our bunting game, right? If we have an ability to put a drag down or get a push down, put that on a scouting report, and then it opens up the field because maybe the third baseman needs to play in, and it's going to make us better hitters, right? So there's a lot of different ways that we can do it. Our guys have done a really good job of holding their ground in the box and taking some tough doses and finding ways to get on base. Our 2-strike approach and our toughness with 2 strikes has been really good this fall. But again, I think they've just done a really good job.
Who are some of the guys that are coming back who are able to teach some of the newcomers and some of the younger guys on the roster, kind of how to go about it the right way?
Yeah, luckily we have a lot of guys with experience now. I think one guy is obviously Hartman, right? He's done a really good job. He's been here for a while. His growth has been really good to see. Kyler Northrup is also a guy that had a really good, freshman year, faced some adversity, was able to battle back and get through it, and had a really, really good summer, right? He put on some weight, he got more physical, and he's a leader in our program. Gavin Roy, Ollie Obenauer, Jonah Scholl, Ryan Shawnsby, Noah Thine, Luke Thiel, and Cole Watterson. Those are all guys that are returning that have experience, that have definitely helped our new guys, learn our system.
Then any new faces that you think could really turn some heads at the plate for Coug fans this year?
Yeah, Trevor Smith, he's a freshman outfielder that had a really good fall. He's a dynamic offensive player. He's got some sneaky pop, right, with the bat, but he's also got feel for the bunting game and he'll take his doses. Dane Chavez, a freshman infielder, has done a really good job. He's shown an ability to hit the ball to all fields. His feel for the bunting game has gotten better. He's made some strides. Dustin Robinson, is a junior college outfielder from Cypress College down in Southern California. He's super physical, right? He has an ability to do some real damage at the plate, and he's pretty scary in the box with his physicality. But we got some guys that we're super excited about.
Coach, what have you noticed from the hitters in terms of what they've been able to do to progress their games? And I know, always battling against your pitching staff every day as well.
Yeah, we're definitely stronger. There's more balls hit out of the ballpark this year than last year. Now, a lot of people would say, well, hey, you're the pitching coach. There's a pitching problem. We also throw harder, so the ball does go a little bit further when you throw harder. But I think just getting guys to understand, what we're trying to do offensively. We want to have multiple ways to score. We want to be able to win on a Friday and on a Tuesday, right? Those are somewhat different games. But the idea of getting guys to get to first base and getting a pitcher out of the stretch, and the more runners that you get on base, the more that they get out of the stretch, which typically pitchers don't feel as comfortable with. The runner at first now becomes a distraction, and now they make a mistake. And now we can hammer a ball in the gap or over the fence. And so we bunt to hit for power, if that makes sense. I think sometimes people think we just want to bunt. No, sometimes we will bunt a runner over it with a runner at second base in the 8th inning and we need a run. Yeah, we will. But a lot of times we'll try to bunt for a hit more because we want to get guys on base. That's why holding our ground and not moving out of the way, taking a dose is such a big deal for us. Really a bigger emphasis on walks. We're really trying to win the free 90, win the on-base game versus the opponent. It's no secret we walked too many guys last year, but if we could really cut down those walk numbers from our pitching staff, which I truly believe we will, and then we can increase the walk numbers offensively with the strength that we've added, I think there's going to be more runs scored, more balls hit out of the ballpark, and then us obviously not giving up as many runs. And so I think they've really bought into that concept of trying to get on base without sacrificing, like, hey, once you get on base, we're okay with you hitting a ball in the gap or hitting a home run when the guy makes a mistake. Sometimes you just need a bunt to get it going, right? Where a guy's in the 4th inning and he's in cruising, he's been out of the windup the whole time, and you just got to find a way to get to first. And now you get out of stretch and it's ball 1, ball 2, and it kind of changes things. And so I really think guys really understand the philosophy that Coach Hutting is teaching them.
Coach Hutting, any final thoughts from you on either our discussion about the catching unit or the hitters as we get closer to first pitch this year?
Yeah, I'm excited. Number one, I think we have a really good group of guys that are excited to play and are excited for the season to start. I'm pumped. We had a really good fall and guys are hungry. So I'm excited to get going.
Well, thank you for the time, and we're looking forward to seeing all those guys in action.
Awesome. Thank you.
Up next, as our conversation continues to get ready for this upcoming Cougar baseball season, we are joined by Dan Bauer, assistant coach for Washington State, works with the Cougar outfield primarily. And Coach Choate, let's talk about Dan, new face to this staff, and just what stuck out to you about him and bringing him to Washington State.
Yeah, his work ethic is probably what jumps off the page first. He's a tireless worker, first one in, last one to leave, huge asset in recruiting as well. Wants to be here, pours himself into it every single day, and came highly recommended, but saw him at a lot of events, always working, made a great reputation for himself the last few years up in the Northwest from a recruiting standpoint. And so really, really fortunate to have him on staff.
For those who aren't familiar, Dan came to Washington State from Centralia College, a program that was having a ton of success in the NWAC, which is a great Northwest league. And you see a lot of those players, graduate up into levels like where the Cougs are. What have you seen in the work that Dan's been able to do at the outfield to this point, getting ready for the year?
Yeah, he's really passionate about outfield play, willing to learn. I have, and I think he'd tell you this, really high standards in everything we do. It can be a lot at times for people, and I understand that. But trying to push the program forward, I think he's done a great job of continuing to be resilient and show up and put in the work as we continue to push to be at the highest level as we can in the outfield.
Well, Coach Bauer, welcome into the podcast for the first time. We're excited to have you and talk about this outfield. Just how has it been, first off, getting to the program, getting here to Pullman, and what's it been like working with the guys so far?
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable experience so far. So grateful to be here. I'm continuing to grow and learn a lot every day as a coach. I think that's been the big thing for me is how much I'm learning being around this great coaching staff and Coach Choate. For our guys, it's been great. The outfield group has been phenomenal about just being willing to learn and be coachable, and that jumped out at me from day one. Guys really buying into what we're teaching, what we're trying to accomplish, and the things we're asking them to do, they continue to strive to do and get better at. And it just excited to continue to work with these guys and see what they do this spring.
I feel like it's safe to say one of the big leaders, a returner of this outfield, Max Hartman. He kind of probably headlines the group, but I think there's a lot of guys here who are very interesting in terms of returning experience and then what they can bring to the program as newcomers. Let's start first just talking about Max, and you get to work with him. How is he as a leader with this group?
Yeah, Max is great. The thing that jumped out for me right away was his willingness to help the younger guys. We have a little bit younger group out there, right? And Max jumping in and really teaching guys and being very unselfish. Max is a guy who just wants to win and doesn't need it to be just about himself or his accolades. Like, he wants the whole group to be better and to get better. And it's been one of those things that it's just really cool to watch him try to show these younger guys what he's learned, right? His experience, very vocal out there and helping guys. And it's been great to watch our younger guys learn from him.
Can you talk about some of the other returners in this group and guys that Cougar fans will be familiar with?
Yeah, Cole Watterson is our leader by doing everything right every day, right? Cole's one of those guys that you want 34 of him on your 34-man roster in terms of his leadership, doing everything right every day and leading by example, right? Cole Watterson is a guy that has been great for our guys as well, right, to learn from and learn the ropes. So, between him and Max, we're in really good hands out there from a leadership standpoint.
And then new faces on this roster. You mentioned that there's some youth in this outfield. You talk about some of the new guys that have come in here.
Yeah, Trevor Smith is going to be a guy that Coug fans are going to get to know real early. Is a lot of quiet confidence out of Trevor. He's a guy who, he's a baseball player, right? He looks like a baseball player. He moves like a baseball player. He acts like a baseball player. And he's really poured himself into being a leader as well, right? That's hard as a freshman and playing center field to kind of have some of that gumption, right? And just when we talk about the leadership and the experience we have out there, it's something Trevor's been great about, right? Being more vocal and really directing and leading out there. So he's been great. Dustin Robinson, one of our junior college transfers from Cyprus, big body, super athletic for his size, and has been a wonderful addition to our squad, and excited for a big spring from him as well.
What were some of your focuses working with the group on and things that you really wanted to pay special attention to coming into this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing is we want guys to be aggressive. We don't want guys to play scared, from a whole team, not just, outfielders. We want guys to go out there and make plays, right? Playing defense is about making plays, right? We talk about that all the time. So that's something that's been a big focus to us, all right? Flying around. Other than that, we talk a lot about being able to communicate well, right? Pre-pitch with each other, with infielders, when the ball's in the air, helping each other out. Whether it's just a read or getting close to a wall or getting close to another player, right? Communicating well is a big thing, and then just doing stuff fundamentally right. Things like hitting a cutoff man, knowing where our positioning is. How to adjust positions, right? At this level, that's a very important part, right? That extra step is very important. So, we spend a lot of time making sure guys understand, what their positioning is, what no doubles looks like, when we're trying to put guys in pull or up. And so that's been a big thing for us as well. Just guys understanding where they need to be on the field, especially with a younger group, of how important that is to be able to understand that.
I think you hit on a lot of elements of my next question here, but can you kind of help break down for fans just some of the unique things that you have to deal with as an outfielder and the things that are going through your head that maybe people don't always think about?
Yeah. The big thing, right? We're in Pullman in the wind and learning how to play at your park, right, is a big thing. And just the thing that is different, at this level that I think a lot of, the casual fan might not notice, right, is just how much those guys have to move and position, and us as a coaching staff adjusting guys pitch to pitch, batter to batter, and just how much of that is important, right? It's, guys think of outfielders as just standing around and go run and catch a ball, right? But there's so much more to that, right? Reading swings, understand how to adjust themselves, by following our lead. Those are all big things that, I think the casual fan might not know just from watching a game.
Coach Choate, what have you noticed about the group and its development going throughout the offseason?
Yeah, we have more depth out there, between Cole and Trevor and Max and Matt Priest, who's a new player, transferred from USC, and Dustin and Mason Perello and Joey Heckard. There's just more true outfielders out there. And one of the things about the Mountain West, the ballparks that we play in and the elevation, that the ball travels pretty good, which It's really important they have outfielders that can run and cover some gaps. Luckily, we're not playing at New Mexico this year, and we'll hopefully never play there ever again. But I'm not going to shy away from that one. But when people talk about defense, a lot of times they just talk about infield defense. And what you don't realize is when you make an error in the infield, it's normally 90 feet, right? They get from home to first. When you make an error in the outfield, it's 180 feet. It's twice that, right? It's a 2-base error. And so the importance on outfield defense is critically important. And last year, due to some injuries, we were running some guys out there that had never played outfield before in left field, and we got exposed, especially in the conference that we're playing in this year. And so I just feel way more comfortable when the ball goes up that someone's going to actually catch it, and we're going to run some balls down in the gap. And so it looks right when the ball goes up in the air and we track it down. So I think more fly balls are going to be caught.
Dan, what excites you most about this position group?
Coach talked about it, right? The depth, the athleticism out there, the ability to just run a lot of balls down, just with our speed and experience out there. As the season continues to go, I'm excited to watch us, catch everything that goes out there. So, we're excited to see those guys play for real.
Any other thoughts as we get closer to the start of the year? I know everything's an exciting time right now and kind of getting down to crunch time and getting towards the season.
Yeah, it's crunch time, but we feel very ready, and we've put a lot of work in as a whole team, not just outfield specific. And our guys, we have a lot of experience, a lot of returners as a whole. So, we're ready, and it's going to be a fun year, and we're excited to get there.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to continue to get to know you even more as the season goes on, and looking forward to the start of the season. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That was a great opportunity to talk to all the assistants about different aspects of this team. And one thing that I hit on a little bit earlier, especially when we were talking with Coach Hutting and the hitters, was Coach Choate, for you, you're a pitching guy, and you have your hands on this pitching staff and developing them. So let's talk about that group to round it out and what you've seen. Obviously, super important position for this team and what you guys want to do to be successful. So, what have you seen from that group? Probably primarily highlighted by bringing 3 guys who were solid starters for you back in that rotation this year.
Yeah, those 3 guys, obviously, to anchor the rotation to start the year. The experience that they have, they're battle tested now. They've gotten better. Griffin Smith threw the other day, his velocity's up and his execution is better. All of their velocity is up and their execution is better. One thing that some people have asked me, and they said, hey, you got all 3 starters back. I looked at their numbers. Their numbers weren't great. Why are you so excited about them? Well, part of that is my fault, right? We were short on the mound last year, and those guys are great teammates, and I left them in longer than I would have liked to, for no other reason than they gave us the best chance to win. They never complained about it. They never made an excuse. But, you all of a sudden a guy's at 107 pitches and you leave him in for a hit or 2 long because you're a little short in the bullpen, and then you give up a 4 spot and the ERA goes through the roof. And so those guys can pitch. They're good. They've gotten better. And so part of that, you can blame me for that. But having those 3 guys to start this thing is definitely encouraging. And, Gavin Durr is another guy that was banged up a little bit last year. He was 91 and 94 in our scrimmage the other night, and he's super competitive and throws strikes. And I think he's a guy that Coug fans will like is to see as well.
Can you talk about some of the other returners that you have coming back from the staff last year? And I know there were some injuries too, and guys that didn't get to have the experience that they wanted a year ago. So what do Coug fans expect coming back?
Yeah, let's start with Trevor Stowe. Trevor's made great strides as far as commanding his fastball down in the zone. And so his velocity is held, and so expect a big bounce back year for Trevor. Rylan Hyder, who is now who's a senior, 4th year in the program, and really was steady for us last year. Same thing. Sometimes I ran Rylan, back-to-back days out of the bullpen because simply he gave us the best option. And so I think we can hopefully put him in a better position to be successful day in and day out. Caden Wickersham. Caden was injured last year. When Caden's right, it's 94 to 96 with a slider, a back-end bullpen that should help us. He's throwing live to hitters right now. He's up to 30 pitches, and so I think he'll be ready for day one. Brock Blatter, high talent, When he's right, it's 95 to 97 with like an 86, 87 mile an hour breaking ball. He probably won't be ready till March 1st, coming back from injury, but he's a guy that has high leverage stuff. And so I think those guys, having those guys available to help us on the back end, plus the new additions, I think we'll just have more depth.
Well, you segue perfectly into what I wanted to ask you about next, and that's some of these new arms that you've brought in. I mean, you have a certain type of guy you're looking for. Who are some of these new pitchers that you found you feel like can make an impact?
Tabor Fast. I'll start with Tabor. Tabor's transfer from Texas Tech. He's a Washington kid, and Tabor can really pitch. Through the other day, 2 innings, low pitch count, any pitch at any time. Like I said, left-handed. And so he's going to help us in a variety of different roles. He'll also pinch hit and DH a little bit. He can hit it as well. But I have a lot of confidence in him. And, we have Eric Rodriguez. Eric is a transfer from RCC, 94 to 95. His fastball's dancing all over the zone. The key for him is pounding the fastball down. If he does that, he's really, really successful. And so excited to have him as well. Ryan Falk, who is a freshman. Ryan, 88 to 91 with a changeup. His changeup is his go-to pitch. Anybody that knows me and knows pitching, I love guys that can locate a fastball and throw a changeup. And so, I think he's going to be pretty successful getting in there early. The slider is continuing to develop, but I think he's a guy as a freshman that has pretty unique poise for a freshman that can go out there and help us. So he's another guy that I think we're leaning on to help. And finally, probably to start the year, to close for us, will be Scott Ringett. Scott sat out last year with an arm injury at Kansas State. He's been up to 93 with a slider and a curveball and a changeup. He's a really good athlete, multiple pitches for a strike, and feel really confident bringing him in late in a game that he's going to fill up the strike zone and make somebody beat us, with some swings. It's devastating to a team when you go out there with the lead and you can't command the fastball. Sometimes you just need a guy that can go out there and throw a fastball for a strike when you need it, and then be able to throw an off-speed pitch and get a swing and miss. And so I think he has both those abilities.
In the earlier parts of our conversations, thought there were some themes that we hit on that I'm sure are true to this pitching staff. And one was what you pointed out about limiting walks, lowering those numbers, being able to win that on-base battle with opponents. But, also a common thread of talking about toughness, being able to pitch down in the zone, all things that you guys are really focused on. Just kind of how do you boil down what you want the mentality to be of the pitching staff?
All of those things are true. We want guys to be confident. We want them to be tough. We want them to execute. But at the end of the day, the biggest key for this group, in my opinion, is the ability to win each individual pitch. You'll hear that a lot out of me with this group. Can we win this pitch? Can we segment and put all of our focus in making this pitch more important than any other? Because if you do that, then it makes the other things easy. It makes it easier to compete to that pitch, makes it easier to execute to that pitch, regardless whether it's a 1-0 curveball or a 2-0 curveball or an 0-0 curveball. We should treat them all the same. And if we can get our mind right to do that, where we take a deep breath, relax, get present, execute and focus on that pitch and be committed to the process, we're going to have better results. It's that simple. And so you don't realize that until sometimes you fail. And that's one of the things with last year's group, where it was going a little fast for us with all the inexperience. It was going fast. And so now when we're talking about taking it a pitch at a time, making this pitch more important than any other, they understand exactly what we're talking about. And so I use an analogy all the time, just to give you an example. If I told one of our pitchers, hey, I had $1 million, and I opened up a briefcase and I said, hey, if you hit this spot right here, I'll give you $1 million. If you miss, no harm, no foul. Would anybody that's a competitive athlete try to do that? They would say yes, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let's say you miss 5 times in a row and I asked a 6th time and I open up the briefcase and say, hey, here's $1 million. Would you like to try and do it? Well, most people are going to think, yeah, I'd do it. Why not?
What's to lose?
And they're thinking, I'm going to do it. I'm going to win the $1 million. They're not worried about ball 4. They're not worried about, well, I missed the first 5, right? That's really the mindset of taking a pitch at a time, that really truly making that pitch more important than any other pitch that you've made the entire game. And that's what comes with maturity. And that's what comes with professionalism, is you have experience and you can separate things. We've been talking about segmenting a lot so we don't make the task too big for our guys. And can you just do this? can you just go out in this situation and execute this pitch? Regardless if the bases are loaded, regardless if it's a 3-0 count, regardless if it's 0-0 and there's 2 outs, it doesn't matter. Each pitch is its own story. And so that's how we get to what you're asking. Like, hey, how do you walk less guys? How do you throw more strikes? How do you give up less runs? How do you become more confident? You make the task very simple. And the task is simple. You execute your pitch where you want to throw it. And if you execute your pitch where you want to throw it and a guy gets a base hit, then you move on. Yeah. And then when the game's over, you get to analyze it and you get to learn the lessons from it and you get to apply it and work it on your bullpen. But in the moment, you truly have to commit and get focused on that individual pitch. And that's why you hear us talking about the process so much in all areas of the game.
And I'm assuming hyper-focusing on those individual pitches helps block out all the other surrounding factors that factor into the pressure that a pitcher is under.
Absolutely. You don't hear anything else. You know, you see it in movies and you'll ask athletes, like when they're in the zone and the best outings that they've ever had, what were you thinking about? They weren't thinking about anything. They were just locked in. They were thinking about the next pitch. It was super simple. It's one of the things in athletics when a guy is sick and he goes on to have a career performance and you're like, how did he do that? He was sick. Well, really, when you're sick, you're just thinking about what's next. You're not feeling well and you just go, hey, let me just think about this thing. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to think to this thing and then this thing. And so really just getting our guys to be hyper-focused on just one individual pitch. And then once it's out of your hand, there's nothing you can do. You got to move on to the next one.
Last thing I want to ask you about on the pitching side, we talked about it in our earlier offseason kind of update preview coming into this year, but you guys went to the automated ball strike system throughout your training leading up to this year, meaning that you've got a zone there computerized. You guys are able to read it off the TrackMan, and then you have someone on staff who's able to buzz a whistle if they disagree with an umpire's call. I got to see that in action out at scrimmages. I found it really interesting and just curious your take of how it's impacted these pitchers and certainly tightened the zone for them a little bit.
We did it because what I just said previous. We wanted to make it as hard as possible on them to really focus on the next pitch. And so when you have a really tight strike zone and you throw a pitch that probably would be called a strike in a regular strike zone with an umpire and it gets called a ball, now all of a sudden there's some adversity. You can either get past it or you can go, man, where was that? And you keep focusing on it. Now the pitch clock is running. And so, like I said, that was by design. We tried to make it as difficult on our pitching staff to get to the next pitch as possible. And when using the strike zone was one of the ways that we did it. And so it flips counts, right? And you see it in the playoffs a lot with counts. Counts matter so much. A 2-1 count versus a 1-2 count. That 1-1 pitch is so important. And you look at batting averages and what the average is against and the on-base percentages when counts are in a hitter's favor versus a pitcher's favor. And so that's what, going with the TrackMan strike zone, we wanted to make it as difficult on our pitching staff as possible. So now you're down 2-0 and you're going to fastball in. Are you present? Are you able to execute? Are you still focused in the past on the 1-0 pitch that you thought was a ball and a half off? If you're still thinking about the pitch you made 2 pitches ago, you're going to give up a double in the gap. And so that's one of the reasons that we used it to really try to hammer home the concept of getting present on each individual pitch. And it was just a way to make it tough on our guys.
To close out the entire conversation of today and to really appreciate you and the entire staff's time to talk through each of these aspects, I thought another common thread that we heard throughout, and I feel like I saw it too when I went out to the scrimmages, was the first scrimmages was the strength, just how the guys look physically, the physicality. Can you talk about what was put into that in the offseason? Because it does seem to be quite noticeable.
Well, first off, kudos to Jake Needham, our strength coach, who does a great job. But you hear it all the time and people don't necessarily understand what it means. Failure is better than success. So when our guys were lifting this summer, right, and hearing how bad we played and how how bad I was and all of those things, right, and how bad they are, you use it as motivation to get better, right? You either let it overcome you and you just surrender to it, or it motivates you. And that's what failure will do for you if you use it the right way. And so I think those bodies and that strength is a byproduct of struggles last year, maybe getting tired down the stretch, not like losing. You want to fix it, right? And so you're motivated. And so that day in July on the 7th when all your buddies are going to the lake to do something else, and you go, you know what? No, not this year. That's never happening again. I'm going to go lift instead. I think you see a motivated group is what you see. Number one, you see a strength coach that did a great job. You see a bunch of committed athletes, but I think they're using some motivation from last year to fuel their success. And that's why before any athlete's successful, you'll look in their past and there's much of failure that motivated them.
I feel like it's also special on this team. You have a lot across the board, position groups, experience, but guys who can lead in each of those areas from a player's perspective. Just how has that maybe changed what an offseason has looked like for this team, having those players in those spots who can lead one another?
It's probably the most impactful thing in our program right now. The best teams are player-led teams. And so my job is to set standards. I don't even, with this team, I don't even have a ton of rules. I have more standards. And then those guys know, like, hey, if you want to win, you better do it to this standard. And so they teach the young guys, like, hey, that's not good enough, because they know the result if you don't. And so I think them just upholding the standards of the program is really trying to help us get it flipped where we have way more success on the field. So I think, Coug fans should be optimistic because of that. But a ton of credit goes to our players for leading the younger guys and showing, hey, that's not good enough. That's not how we do it. We do it this way here. So,
well, it's getting exciting, getting mighty close to the start of the season. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see you guys open up in less than a month's time, which is hard to believe that we're saying that. Thanks to you and the staff for all the time today, and just until our next discussion, which is really going to be kind of leading up to that first series. What do the next 30 days look like for Cougar baseball to get ready to lace them up and go out there and put it on the field?
Yep. Since we're talking about process, we have practice tomorrow. And there are certain things that we need to get better at, and we're going to hammer those tomorrow. We're going to worry about tomorrow and make tomorrow as good a day as we can, and then we'll worry about the next day after that. So literally, just like we're telling our players to live in the moment, we're doing the same thing as a coaching staff. And so we got some work to do, and we're going to get back to work tomorrow.
All right. We're looking forward to seeing the outcome of all that work for you guys this season. Thanks for the time here on the preview, Coach, and we'll talk to you coming up here before the start of the year.
Appreciate it. Go Cougs.